Our world is full of mystery. So many things that are yet to be explained or understood. Much like the stories you are about to listen to. So get comfortable and let the darkness take control. Number 1. In order to tell this story, I have to go back many years before. My grandma bought a home in a Salt Lake City suburb in the 1960s, after her and my grandpa had their first child together. And she believes the home has been haunted since day one. She says that even though it was clear very early on that something was in their home, she never felt as if she needed to leave. She said it was her home, and that whoever was there was welcome to stay as long as they understood and appreciated the rules. Other than one story, it appears that all ghostly residents at Grandma's house followed her rules, and never gave her a reason to evict them. Over the years, my grandma welcomed more children to the home, and it became a safe haven for my entire family. The home is a one-story home with a downstairs living area. The upstairs has a living room, bathroom, and 2 bedrooms. The kitchen leads to a set of stairs leading to a basement with 3 or 4 rooms. We use the home for most family gatherings. Much of the family has experienced something unusual in the home, and it's commonly blamed on the ghosts. 2 of my grandma's stories are the reason that I have one of my own. My grandpa died in 1999. Several months after his death, my grandma was in her kitchen doing the dishes. She says she felt a strange feeling come over her, as if she needed to leave the house. She later attributed that feeling to that of my grandpa warning her of danger. Before she could even finish her thought, she had a sensation that something very strong was grabbing her from behind and trying to force her downstairs. She couldn't see anybody, but she felt something powerful trying to force her. She states that she fought the power very hard and managed to make it to her kitchen table. She sat at the table and held onto it, whilst the entity violently pulled and groped at her, but she would not let go. Finally, it just stopped, and nobody was there. The house was again silent and peaceful. She said that she was never so scared in her life. My grandma is a tough old lady, but you could tell that this really shook her deeply. Whilst telling me this story, at the same kitchen table, she told me of a little ghost girl that lives in her basement. She said the little girl would like to play pranks on people, pull the blankets off when they were sleeping, or hide things in the home. Grandma said she knew it was the girl because of the laughter. Grandma said the little girl would giggle mischievously, so she knew it was her. The little girl seemed peaceful, and she just wanted somebody to play with. One day my mum was doing laundry downstairs, while she was living there during her separation from my dad. She says she saw what appeared to be a hazy outline of a tiny person. She said hello with a nervous laugh, and then the haze just evaporated. To that point, I had never experienced anything scary or ghostly in the home. After hearing these stories, I was creeped out by being in any room alone, but still, it was nothing more than a spooky feeling and an embarrassing sprint up the stairs. Now, flash forward a few years to the exact kitchen table, only subtract my grandma and add my mother and 2 of my friends, Brad and Ashley. We were all sitting around talking and planning our evening. My friends and I had no money, so we settled on an evening at my grandma's house with my mum. Not exactly my idea of fun, but whatever. At one point, we began telling ghost stories, and my mum and I decided to tell my friends about the house of horrors that they were currently sitting in. My mum told them about the little girl. She had an experience with the girl, so it made sense for her to tell it. The girl's story was met with enjoyment and disbelief. So when it was my turn to tell about my grandmother's incident with the dishes and the little girl, I was not surprised to see the same reaction in my friends' faces. The bullshit look. Next, almost as if on cue, the cheap yet expensive looking chandelier that hung above my grandma's table exploded. Now I'm not even talking about a blown bulb, I'm talking about 4 light bulbs actually exploding simultaneously. Glass went everywhere. After a few moments of looking around at each other, we all decided that we needed to get out. After tripping all over each other in an attempt to save ourselves, we all managed to make it outside. We all left the house within minutes. My mum went home and my friends and I went and got ourselves intoxicated as hell. The ghostly pyrotechnics were of course the talk of the evening. Even now I recall this as being absolutely the most spooked out I've ever been, as we discussed what happened with some other friends that we met up with that night. I began to notice that familiar bullshit look on their faces. Needless to say, Brad and Ashley believe the stories now. Number 2. When I was in 3rd grade, I dreamt about myself biking around our neighborhood and suddenly was hit by a truck. It's like seeing yourself in slow motion, and I saw red, blood everywhere. It was really gruesome, and for a child to witness her own death is really scary. I saw myself fly a few feet away, and my body lifeless on the floor. I woke up abruptly, but didn't tell anyone about what I dreamt, because older people here believe that if you dream about something that alarms you, you should tell this to an old tree, and that tree would take away the bad thing that might happen. I know, people here are superstitious, so seeing nothing wrong about this aside from making a fool out of myself, I tried it. I came early to school and told my story to the oldest tree that I could find. After that, I really didn't care or think about it anymore. But a couple of days later, that tree, the same old tree I told my story to, started to die. As in, the leaves turned yellow, all the fruits rotted and fell off, and eventually it just died. Barren. It was chopped down shortly after. I can't explain any of this, but thinking about it, maybe, just maybe, that tree saved my life. Number 3. This happened to me when I was 6 or 7 years old. I remember this very clearly to this day, and it still makes my spine shiver thinking about it. I had the large bedroom in my flat. My mum had decorated the walls with pink and lavender paint, and cute little metallic swirls. I had bunk beds, glittery curtains in my window, charms, and glittery things hanging from the ceiling. A young girl's dream. I'll try to explain a rough layout of my room. The door opens, and you will immediately see my purple bunk beds, with my head facing out the door. On the wall in front of you, behind my bunk beds, is a long window. To the left on the wall looking out to my garden, the next wall to my left of the bunk beds has a large fireplace, which I used to put all my trinkets on, and then the joining wall to my door was more of an alcove. Anyway, that is where I saw her. I remember getting into bed at night, and everything seemed normal at first. My room wasn't usually too dark, because the moonlight shone through my window and through my glittery curtains. After trying to sleep for what seemed like ages, I don't know why, but I started to look around my room, particularly in the alcove area. Something was in the dark corner. I couldn't focus my eyes properly for a while, but when I did, I noticed my girl's world head, one of those plastic weird lady heads that you can do makeup on and style her hair, stood out in the moonlight against the creepy dark corner. I remember going to lay back down on my bed, but I had an urge to look back, and when I did I was paralyzed with fear. At first I thought I might be imagining it, because I had been staring at the plastic lady head. But I swear, I saw this dark woman-like outline stood right there next to the plastic head. It was like a dark grey black mist, but in the shape of a woman. I slowly looked at her, or it, with its massive bulging eyes, scanning down and saw that she had no feet. There was nothing there. No shadow, no feet, nothing. She or it was levitating about 10 inches off the ground, and it seemed like she was moving towards me. I was absolutely terrified, and will always remember this because of how cripplingly scary it was. I was in shock. I quickly spun around in bed and curled into the fetal position, with my quilt tightly wrapped around me. I made sure the quilt was tightly wrapped around my neck and head. And can I just add that there were no labels or anything that could have emulated what happened next. I was shaking and trying not to breathe loudly when I felt something standing behind me, leaning over me. I closed my eyes and gripped the quilt, and all of a sudden, I felt a tickle on the back of my neck. It's the feeling you get when someone puts their fingers on the back of your neck. It started off like that, and then became quickly more aggressive, tightening around the back of my neck, as if someone were trying to keep hold of me. I tried to scream, but no words came out. I was sweating and shaking, and my neck was getting worse. It was hurting. I tried screaming over and over, but all that came out were the little squeaks. It was as if I were gasping for air. I remember the moment when I was finally able to scream for my mum. I screamed at the top of my lungs, but it came out as a cracked, blood-curdling cry for help. But as soon as she ran in and flung the door open, a burst of light came through and the whole thing stopped. My mum grabbed me out of bed and carried me to the front room, cradling me as I sobbed hysterically. To this day, she still believes me in what I said, even though she's never had a personal paranormal experience. There was no way I lied about what I saw. From then on, I slept with my mum for a while, and we eventually moved out. I'm grateful that we haven't been back since. Number 4. In the year 2010 or 2011, I was beginning to explore YouTube. I watched cat videos and music videos most of the time. But one day, I found an incredible singer. She was doing cover songs and had an amazing voice, and I really liked her cool punk style. I liked her but didn't have a YouTube account, so I couldn't subscribe to her, and that's why I lost her again, after a couple of days. Jump to the year 2015, where I found my all-time favourite YouTuber, Ryan Higger. I love this guy and his content so much. I can't even begin to tell you. I got addicted to him, and I followed him on every social media platform possible. So this brings us to the year 2016. I was graduating in that summer, and I was studying non-stop. One day in June, I think it was Friday the 10th, I was studying for a really long time. It was around 12:30 or 1 when I finally said, okay, that's it. I want to stop now. But I was awake too much. So I had to distract myself in order to get tired enough to go back to sleep. So I watched some YouTube videos and looked at the clock again. It was around 4 AM. Then I thought I was tired enough now to go to sleep. But suddenly a thought came through my mind. I wonder what that YouTuber's doing who I watched back in the day. Is she still singing? What is she doing? And most importantly of all, what was her name? But I couldn't remember her name. I hadn't thought about her in years, so it wasn't a surprise that I couldn't remember her name. But I didn't want to try and look her up that night because I knew that I wouldn't be able to find her immediately. And I was tired and was pretty much done for the internet for now. The next morning I woke up and started scrolling through my Twitter notifications. I noticed that Ryan Higger had tweeted something. Oh cool, I thought. Let's see what he says so I can give it a like. And when I saw it, I saw hashtag prayers for Christina. I didn't know what to think of that. I was confused as I didn't know what was going on. And as I kept scrolling down my feed, there was another one. Please tell me that hashtag RIP Christina Grimmie is just a messed up rumour. My whole body froze. I was staring at my phone in disbelief, shock and terror. I knew the face that I was going to see when I googled that name. I couldn't stop my fingers from moving off my phone because I was too scared. I knew the name. I remembered it again. After a minute of staring onto my phone without really looking at it, I googled the name of the girl. And yes, it was her. It was the YouTuber I thought of the night before. She had been shot right after a concert and died. That alone was sad enough because she was such a talented artist. And I'm 100% sure she would have had an amazing career if that incident hadn't have happened. But the fact that I hadn't thought about her in over 6 years, not hearing a single thing about her here in Austria, and then thinking about her on the night of her death? That's too crazy for me. And it still is. I mean, how can it be possible? A couple of weeks later, I thought about the experience and wondered, when did she die exactly? I mean, what time? So I looked it up and searched for the time difference between Orlando, where she died, and Austria, and the time of her death. Once I had that, I counted back the hours of the time difference and got shocked again. She got shot at almost exactly the same time I'd thought about her. Perhaps this is just a coincidence, but they do say that some people, like mediums, can tap into a special and different kind of energy that lets them in on a wealth of information. I'm not really sure what I believe, but I know for sure this is one of the creepiest things that has ever happened to me. Rest in peace, Christina. Number 5. I'm pretty sure I'm currently being haunted by a ghost who really needs to take a dump. It sounds like a joke, but trust me, I'm being honest. It all started last summer. I was home alone reading a book in the living room when suddenly I hear a loud fart from the kitchen. It startled me and I went to see what was going on. In the kitchen I could feel a faint smell of fart, but nothing and no one was there. Fast forward a couple of weeks, I'm at Starbucks and had to take a whiz. Only the disabled toilet was unoccupied, so I went in. The bathroom layout was that the toilet was on the far edge of the large room, and there was a motion sensor sink at the opposite end, near the door at least 3 or 4 meters away. So I sit down and do my business, when out of nowhere, the goddamn tap activates and runs for at least 15 seconds. Now I'm obviously alone in the room, and several meters away from the sink, so I had no way of activating it. Fast forward once more to a week ago. I'm just hanging out with my sister in her room, just chilling and talking about girl things like memes and makeup and whatever. And it was just me and her at home. And then it happened. The sound of a large fart came from the living room. Both of us heard it and have absolutely no explanation for it. There were no people, no pets, not anything that could possibly account for that sound or smell. I've dubbed the ghost the Phantom Farter, and I truly hope that he can relieve himself to pass on to the other side. Good luck, Phantom Farter.
Thanks for your viewed video. Please subscribers my channel. If you have any comment or question, please let me know. Thank you.